7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
All right, and welcome to another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. Sitting here in the virtual Zoom studio, we got myself, we got Token Tony, we got Tony Johnson, and Spike. The four of us are back, and it is the NFL Divisional playoff round. We just finished Super Wildcard Weekend, the first weekend in professional football where we had 6 wildcard games. And Token, to be honest, I loved 2 straight days packed with triple headers in football. Now, some of the games were exciting. Some of the games were a little bit more mundane and boring than others. What was your favorite game of the weekend, of the Super Wildcard Weekend?
Oh, better if the Lions had made it, but that's obviously not going to happen anytime soon.
Alternate universe.
Yeah. Realistically, it was probably the Colts and Bills.
Colts and Bills kicked it off. It was an exciting one. I mean, it looked like the Bills were going to pull away. I think we talked about this last week. I said I hadn't met a person in Las Vegas who was on the Colts, and so I decided to take them for that reason. Thankfully, it worked out. It's always nice to go against the grain sometimes. But, Tony, what was your favorite game of the 6-pack wildcard weekend?
No, first off, I think it was a complete slam dunk in regards to turning into playoff format, and going forward, I can't see why they wouldn't keep this. To me, it was fantastic. But I don't know, my favorite game. That's a great question. There were a few really good games. I would say, having to choose one, I think the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game was just so crazy how it all went down. That to me, that was the big wow factor. While it wasn't, the most entertaining in regards to closeness of game, there was still a spot though, I think late in the second quarter, even into the third quarter, that you really kind of thought that if things went, Pittsburgh's way, they still had a chance to win the game. So that was the game that I guess I was the most kind of intrigued and excited about, just how it played out.
Yeah, I don't think anyone had Cleveland 28-0 in their pool in the first quarter there. But Spike, this had to be a new experience. They added more playoff teams, and the Pats still didn't get in. So, which one? You got to actually watch the playoffs, really just, without any side motivations here, just as a fan, and obviously at sports bets, etc. But which one was your favorite game last week?
Yeah, well, I think it was Cleveland-Pittsburgh, and just because of how it started wild, it ended wild, and nobody predicted any piece of that game. It was one of those things that started with the snap over Big Ben's head, and you just knew you were in for a wild ride, and the game just didn't disappoint with 80 some odd points being scored in the game. So, fun times all around. Certainly not what I expected it to be, but I enjoyed that little that piece of it. So,
yeah, I'd say it's hard to top those games you're talking about, like Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Like I said, the first snap out of the gate, it felt a lot like that Seattle and Denver Super Bowl where the first snap went over Peyton Manning's head, and it was just downhill from there. But you're right, Tony. I felt – I was at work watching that game, and I felt, a blip here or something there, and, like Pittsburgh started to creep back, and you're like, oh, this is the Browns. They're going to get out 28-0 and lose this game. Yeah. But I will say this. I know that the game relatively sounded boring, but that Tampa Bay-Washington game was a lot closer than I think a lot of people anticipated. And with no Alex Smith, I think it got even more of a belief that, oh, God, Tampa Bay is just going to walk through these guys. And Tyler Heineke, he might have found a starting job with Washington, if not maybe somewhere else next year. He might be one of those guys on a short list of finding himself starting at least week 1 of the 2021 season for a team that maybe drafts a high rookie quarterback and doesn't want him to start right away. So I think kudos to him. But the most boring game, was that Saints-Bears game. I mean, it felt so bad because New Orleans was up 14-3, and that ball just falls through. I forget the receiver's name's hand. I mean, he literally an average Joe could catch that ball, and for him just dropping. You knew when it was 14-3, it was like, where, you said it, Tony, where's that offense going to come from? It came from nowhere until literally like 2 seconds left in the game. So, speaking of actually Taylor Heineke and destinations, we'll talk about this before we get into these division games. Obviously, we have the LA Green Bay, Baltimore Buffalo on Saturday, Cleveland and Kansas City, Tampa Bay, New Orleans on Sunday. But we've got a new head coach in Jacksonville, and that's Urban Meyer. And the first thing that I think in our group text, I can't remember who texted it, but Tony, I think it was you. You kind of did the eye roll like, oh, boy, what the fuck is this? That was just when it was rumored. Now it's finalized. What are your thoughts on this? Because basically I didn't think anybody was gonna really bite that I want $12, $13 million to coach in the NFL with no real previous experience. And Shad Khan was like, okay, sign the check.
Yeah, it's I'm just so sick of Urban Meyer. He's one of those guys that just want to go away somewhere far. We don't have to hear from him or see him again. It would just be better for society. I'm just can't stand the guy. These made up medical issues that he has, and he just bails on
better
teams.
Healthcare now.
Yeah, I'm sick of it. I don't really want to have to hear about this now. Now we're going to get another 4 or 5 years of all this bullshit and shenanigans. And he's been successful in the college level. That's certainly something, especially at different teams. I think we've seen more of the coaches trying to make the jump from college to the NFL when they've only really been successful in one place, and that's really been, I think, where the biggest failures have been. But he has had some success in a lot of different spots, not only in regards to, different conferences and really different makeups of teams. Coaching at Utah is significantly different than coaching at Ohio State, and things like that. And, X's and O's, certainly, he's as capable as anybody else. But this is a tough business, and it's completely different. As someone I had been listening to on the radio, I can't remember who it was, talked about how, coaches own you. They basically own you at the college level. Anything they say or do, they come up with the entire schedule. It's their show, and there's nothing you can do about it. The pros is basically, almost inherently the opposite of that. They have some power, but, the players are still, have a lot of say. So I don't think it's going to end well. I don't think it may not be the biggest massive failure in the world, but neither was Chip Kelly. He didn't do well, but he wasn't a complete massive failure. So we'll see. But I would say the odds are not good that it's a successful situation.
So, Token, all these Jaguar fans couldn't wait to get their hands on Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 pick. Now there's kind of rumblings that with the Ohio State connection, Jacksonville might go Justin Fields right here. What do you think?
I've heard that speculation and all that. In my opinion, I truly do not see that happening. It's more of a mystery of how long Urban Meyer will actually coach in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, Spike, actually, that leads me to my last really thought about this. Over under 3 years in Jacksonville. Or he gets some kind of medical condition and has to.
I don't know that it'll be a medical condition, but I think 3 years is probably the right number because that's about what Nick Saban did when he was in Miami. He did 05, 06, 07. So Urban Meyer should probably do about that same amount unless he's, thrown out before then. But I think he'll get a 3-year leash. And I think by the end of 3 years, if they haven't had, improvements to the point of he feels comfortable in the NFL, then he'll say, I feel better off in the college ranks and kind of skip town on Jacksonville.
Well, that was kind of a lot of people forget this. Don't forget, Jacksonville, Florida is very close to Gainesville, Florida, probably about an hour and a half. And many people forget based on the fact that they know Urban Meyer from Ohio State, but he won 2 national titles in the University of Florida. So, I mean, a lot of the people who are Jacksonville Jaguar fans are also University of Florida fans, at least a contingent in that area of Florida. So I really wonder if, and I said it for years, they should have brought Tebow in to sell tickets. Maybe that's exactly what they're doing here. Finding, the talent is going to be tough, even though they have little spurts in their team history of being good. But, when they can finally sell tickets again, those people in central to northern Florida are going to go to watch Urban Meyer play. Or coach, I guess. So, I don't know. We'll see. But, that's next year. We're still in the here and now. It's playoffs in the football. The divisional round. We're going to talk about all 4 games. We're going to dissect each of them. We're going to give you our picks. And hopefully we can have some winners this weekend How'd you guys do? I didn't keep track of the picks. I went 2-1 in my picks. Tony, how did you do?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know what I had talked about exactly giving away or not, but certainly did have Tampa and New Orleans, and got there with the number because I was really early with the number at -7, so that was good because that would not have gone well. Almost got Heineke'd there, for a while. At least it really felt like it. And then New Orleans was a good one, and I did have Pittsburgh -3.5. Ended up buying back at 6, actually right before it moved to 5.5. Not for all of it, but for at least a really pretty decent chunk. So it worked out really well in that sense. Player props went pretty well overall. So, absolutely no complaints from me.
Token, how'd your week go last week? Recap your picks.
Lost on Buffalo, lost on Tennessee, lost on Pittsburgh, and the over/under in Seattle. I think I lost that one. I had the over.
Token wins the contest and probably goes 0-4 in Wild Card Weekend. Yikes.
Yep. Well, I mean, I finished off that season 1-9, so.
Yeah, there you go. Spike, how did your picks go?
Officially, well, since we're not doing a contest, I guess it's not official, but 1-1 in my actual picks. I had Tennessee plus the point, which was like 3.5, whatever that number was. I actually thought they'd win the game outright. So obviously that missed. I had the Saints -10. That one hit. I also had unofficially Ravens and Titans over. That one missed. But if I had played a player prop, it would have been Derrick Henry under whatever yardage total.
Yeah, that was
he
a
had.
good call.
And by the way, that was completely fluke. That was a guess. I mean, that was the end of the podcast bold prediction. And I said, everybody's relying on Derrick Henry to get at least 85 yards in this game. So I'll say he gets under 50. And I think the number ended up being 40.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
It's crazy. You kind of wonder if he did get somewhere in the 60 to 85 range, just holding the ball or maybe even getting one in the end zone, how that game could have been that game could have been different. I mean, it was a close game despite the fact I thought Baltimore really, I would say, dominated that game. I mean, it may not look like it on the scoreboard, but they controlled that game, in my opinion, and Tennessee really didn't have an answer. But we said it was kind of, I mean, as much as we dogged their defense, I thought their defense kept them really in it, and their offense didn't show up. So, sometimes crazy things happen in the NFL. But, all right, so we're going to take just a quick break here, and we're going to go at 12-ounce play some bills. We'll be back on the other side with these 4 divisional playoff games, L.A., Green Bay, Baltimore, Buffalo, Cleveland, KC, and Tampa Bay, New Orleans on the other side. We'll be right back.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money. And we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
At Amazon, we're pretty good at getting things done. We're pretty good at solving problems. COVID-19 is the biggest challenge we've had to face. But challenges are what motivate us. Like flying masks to our employees around the world. We're doing everything we can to get you what you need, and doing everything we can to keep our people safe. I'm former Navy pilot Sarah Rhodes, and I'm proud to lead our Amazon Air network.
All right, and we're back previewing the divisional NFL divisional round weekend. Here we go. We've got 4 games on the slate. We're going to start with this first one on Saturday. It is the LA Rams traveling up to Lambeau to face the Green Bay Packers. LA beat Seattle last week in the wild card round, which I believe, Tony, you and I called that, or at least we called covering and getting that game could be pretty close. Green Bay obviously was on bye. They were the 1 seed in the NFC. They did not have to play last week. A couple interesting storylines here. John Wofford has been ruled out for the game after getting injured in the Seattle game, so we're going to get Jared Goff regardless. I don't think we're going to see the Blake Bortles experience in this one unless Goff just can't go. So I think we're getting Jared Goff there. But the wrinkle is Matt LaFleur was the former offensive coordinator when Jared Goff was there, so he kind of knows Goff a little bit. He can probably relay a little information to the Packers defensive coaching staff there. A couple other things. We've got Green Bay is a -6.5 point favorite. Total in this one 45.5. Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald are also injured in this game. They both are expected to play, but in that cold, how effective is Cooper Kupp going to be? Who he's injured, Jared Goff's injured, so that might be a beat up, passing tandem right there. The Packers are also going to allow fans for this game. They're going to allow 6,000 fans into the stadium, and while it's not a full house or a capacity, sometimes Buffalo showed actually that even had an effect in that game. For Buffalo, just having fans in there. It energizes, the home team. It can definitely, figure out, some sort of noise factor for the visiting team. And it's Lambeau in January, Tony. We're going to get a rain, snow, sleet combination here as the weather forecast calls for highs of 34 degrees and rain/snow.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating that I think a lot of people are still giving – at least the people that I have heard or talked to, they're giving the Rams a chance. And, the quarterback situation is really just in such a bad spot. No one really seems to believe in Jared Goff, and really nor should they. But, it's just a tribute to how great this defense is, and, just how one-sided some of these games have been. There's the last 10 games, I think, half of those, I believe 5 games, they've allowed 10 points or less. It's just with some really strong competition. So, really impressed, there. And they do come in with a couple of injuries as well. It does look like Aaron Donald avoided, anything really serious. He has practiced in full now, I believe, the last day or so. So that's at least a good thing, on the Rams side. The one thing that I'm actually kind of curious about on the injury side is more so with Green Bay, actually. So Rick Wagner, their other starting right tackle, we already know that Bakhtiari, the great left tackle, is out for the year. But Rick Wagner has not been healthy either. He got hurt again in the Chicago game a couple of weeks ago. He's back, I think, limited practice, but he's going to go. But they are saying he's not going to be close to 100%. They signed a guy, from – was it another playoff team last week? I think it was Indy. Yeah, Jared Valdir, and then he had some sort of COVID issue. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go or not. But he's out, yeah. He's been ruled out, yeah. So, I mean, it's just it's not a good spot there, and everyone wants to, assume that Aaron Rodgers is, a Superman, at times, and anything, can happen, and he'll just, get through it all. That's not necessarily the case. Against some really good defenses this year, they have struggled, and they've struggled mightily. That game against Tampa Bay just rings. I keep thinking back to that one and looking back at it. That was a really one-sided affair against one of the very few really high-quality defenses they played this year. So, I don't know. I mean, to me, this line seems about right. I made it 6. So, it's about kind of where I think it should be. If we were still back in the 7 range, I do think that maybe taking 7 points is probably enough. Again, I wasn't that interested in it anyway, but now that we're sitting at 6.5, and I think the total somewhere in the mid-40s seems about right. I'm going to be attacking this more from the player prop side. I've already made a Devontae Adams under receiving yards. I just think it's going to be too tough, no matter who's on him. I don't even care if it's just Jalen Ramsey or not, but even rolling coverage around. And without having a lot of time to throw the ball, I think it's going to be a lot of underneath stuff, dink and dunk. Green Bay is going to probably escape with one here. I mean, certainly I wouldn't be betting, a Rams money line or anything like that, but this might be quite a close game all the way through.
Yeah, Token, I've seen a lot of people. I mean, I don't want to say it's as polarizing as last week with Buffalo and Indy, but I've seen a lot of people just based on their thoughts, and even Tony kind of, mentioned it. Nobody expected LA really to beat Seattle, and in this spot, they're giving LA every chance to really cover this number. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers quietly 48 touchdowns this year. I don't know, that stat surprised me. I mean, I followed the NFL, but I did not realize he had 48 touchdowns this year. And this is the year they're the number 1 seed. They're 13-3. If Aaron Rodgers loses this game, or maybe even loses the next game, no apologist, no AR-12 apologist can say he had no weapons. I mean, Aaron Jones has got a pretty decent running back core. Devontae Adams, best receiver in the league this year, and a couple other complementary pieces there. I know that, Tony talked about the injuries on the line, but you can't give Rodgers a pass. It's too late in his career. This is the year that he's got to get it done.
Absolutely. I mean, unless if there's a whole bunch of freakishly crazy turnovers in this game or something like that, I see Green Bay easily cruising in this one. I mean, it is kind of a warm winter day, touching the weather concept again. Would kind of benefit the Rams in this one, but I just don't see the Rams even keeping this one close.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like you said, there's no confidence spike in Jared Goff, at least what it seems. I mean, we're literally on bated breath to see if John Wolford's going to start in the game. I mean, that doesn't bode well for Jared Goff. And even Sean McVay brought up Blake Bortles in a press conference. I mean, if Blake Bortles, who was the third/second quarterback, is even being considered to go in this game, that does not bode well for Jared Goff at this point. So I think this looks like if they can't throw the ball with Kupp being injured and Goff being injured, we talked about this with Chicago. Where does the offense come from? I mean, they do have a pretty decent tandem/three-headed monster at running back here.
Yeah, I'm not so much concerned about LA's offense because, they made the decision that they wanted to go with Wofford, and then when he got hurt, they went with a clearly injured Goff, and they were still managed to win the game, and that was on the back of the LA defense more than anything else. So, they were able to get to Russell Wilson. They were able to disrupt the routes that the receivers are running. They didn't let Seattle do what they wanted to do, and I think that was where LA was successful. Goff has come out and said that he's not 100% with his thumb injury, so that is an interesting twist. I think what they're going to have to do is make Aaron Rodgers make mistakes. You have to force him to throw when he's not ready. Huh?
So good luck with that.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the problem is that you were talking about his 48 touchdowns this year. I'm more impressed about the fact that he threw only 5 interceptions. And, trying to get a guy like that to make mistakes, throw picks, fumble the ball, get sacked, anything like that, I think it's not a recipe for success. So LA is going to have to find some way to win this game through the air or on the ground or some fumble recoveries for a touchdown. Like they're going to have to win this game in a very unconventional way if they are going to win this game. Otherwise, it's just what Token said. It's going to be Green Bay all day.
Well, yeah, and Tony, that's kind of where I wanted to go here with the last point is I know that you've been high all year on this LA defense. How many points, in your opinion, does LA need to score to really be in this or win this? Not a lot. The question really is, how many points do you foresee, the defense giving up?
It could be a grindy game here, especially if Green Bay can't run the football, which I don't think they're going to be able to do. And it has to rely completely on Aaron Rodgers through the air. I think they're going to be limited in that sense. So, 17 points might be enough to win the game. I'm not sure. 17, 20. I don't know. Green Bay's rush defense has not excited, certainly me, and I think in many others. We saw David Montgomery really run through them quite well when we pretty much knew what was going down. And we knew he was going to get the ball, 18 to 25 times in that game. And, they just really didn't have much of an answer, especially right up the middle. Being able to run between the tackles, this team can do that pretty well. So, I don't know. Again, I don't think they're going to score a lot of points. I agree with you. And where the big plays will be, yes, Green Bay is much more likely for big play potential. But 17 might be enough to get it done. So, we'll see. I don't know. But if they score anything over, 21-24, I think they have a very reasonable chance.
Yeah, and you touched on it. What I think is the key matchup is the Packers' run defense against those 3 running backs. And Cam Akers has been pretty damn good over the last 6 weeks. So. Huh? All right, let's move forward to the other Saturday game, and that is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills. Baltimore coming off Lamar Jackson's first playoff win in his first 3 seasons. And then you have them taking on Buffalo. The line is 2.5. Buffalo 2.5-point favorites. 3 in some spots across Vegas here, 2.5 at the Westgate. Total in this one is 49.5. Baltimore, we talked about it earlier, beat Tennessee to advance on the road. And Buffalo in a it turned out to be a fun game at the end there. Buffalo beat Indy 27-24. And another one where snow is probably in the forecast here. Lamar Jackson, being from Florida, and also in his career, has said he's never played in snow. And he even came out and said in his press conference he's not super excited about the prospect of playing in snow, but nevertheless, he's got to do what he's got to do, because obviously snow and precipitation slows down fast guys, and that's pretty much what they have there in Baltimore. The Bills, congratulations, first playoff win since 1995. It's crazy to think about sometimes. There's teams out there that just have zero to no success for a person's entire life. It's just crazy to think that. Yeah, Token, you're one of them. That's right. Yeah, and you may actually get your entire life where the Lions are subpar, I guess you can say. But
that's to say it lightly.
This one, I look at it honestly. This was the one when I was handicapping. I took this one right off. I had a hard time really. I can literally to take Token's catchphrase. I could literally see it going both ways in this spot. Baltimore's proven on the road they can get it done. Buffalo, again, with the fans, is going to have a tough home field advantage right there. I ended up making a pick on this one but not against the spread. I ended up making a pick on the total. But I just, when it came to the 2.5, I literally Token could see it going either way. But, Tony, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. Josh Allen got his first playoff win as well in his second career start. It wasn't pretty, but he got it done. And I think this may be the spot right now where they're going to rely on him to have to throw the ball, because Devin Singletary out, not Devin Singletary, Zach Moss out, leaving only Devin Singletary in the running as a running back. Not that he was really doing anything this season to begin with anyways. Yeah,
I totally agree. I do think it's going to fall quite, in the lap here of Josh Allen. And this is, you brought it up, I think, very, it was a smart thing to say about Lamar Jackson not having played in snow and this kind of weather. And he actually did talk about it this week, that he wasn't all that excited about it. He wasn't really just giving player speak. He was actually being pretty honest. Josh Allen's the same way. He's been very honest about talking in previous times, not just in his Wyoming days, but also here, especially before the Kansas City game. He talked about how he doesn't like to play in, poor weather. Doesn't seem to handle the ball as well. I was a little bit surprised how honest he was about that. And, he has not played well in inclement weather, even in this season. I'm not quite sure it's just Lamar Jackson here that could have an issue. This could very well be a Josh Allen issue. And as you said, Aaron, you have to go out, you have to beat Baltimore. They are not handing anybody anything at this point. This is the Baltimore team that I think we saw a lot of, last season when they were really hammering folks down the stretch. This is a tough out. This team. I know I've been kind of high on them now for a little while. I waited patiently trying to find a number. I know we'll talk about the picks, a little bit later on towards the end, but it was a wait and see approach for me. So that's at least one thing there. I'll mention that a little bit later on, but I'm not a huge fan of what Buffalo is going to potentially be doing here on offense. I'm going to be playing a lot of Josh Allen unders. Already have him in passing yards, considering a rushing yards spot as well. I don't like what Stephon Diggs in his matchup this week. I haven't stepped in front of Stephon Diggs this entire season. He's just a guy that is absolutely obliterating anybody. But this is a spot where I don't think it's going to be good. A lot of pass rush from Baltimore. I think we're going to see a really defensive slugfest, especially early on here. Maybe some big plays a little bit later on in the second half. I think if you get that 10-7 kind of game in the first half, definitely be looking towards playing maybe an over in the second half if that number comes down a little bit, especially if there's some inclement weather. But because we've seen some bigger plays, especially from Buffalo in the second halves of games this year. The majority of their big plays have come in the second half. But yeah, I think it'll be a great game. This is the game I'm looking forward to the most in regards to, I think, just two really high-quality teams going at it and, not a significant advantage for either side.
Yeah, and Tony, hopefully maybe you can look this up for me while I'm switching gears over to Token here. You could look up maybe a catch prop for Stephon Diggs. He's played 16 games in a Buffalo Bill uniform. He's got 15 games of 6 or more catches.
I believe 7.5. I believe I have that here. Yeah, I think it was 7.5.
That's an incredibly high number. If that's correct, I think I would probably play the under in that game, in that bet as well too. But Token, who's under more pressure at this point? I mean, Lamar. Let's look at the careers. They're both drafted in the same draft. Josh Allen started out spotty. Has had I would say you could say 2 good seasons. This season he had, in my opinion, MVP considerations, even though he's not going to win it. And he won his first playoff game in his second ever start versus Lamar Jackson, who basically just won his first playoff game in 3 seasons. Now, I understand that, the first year was against the Chargers, blah, blah, blah. And in the second year, they were really under the microscope. His MVP season, they lost to the Tennessee Titans. We know all about that game. And then obviously beating the Titans as a revenge game. I have a hard time. I'm going to say Lamar Jackson just simply because of the magnitude of him winning an MVP. But in your opinion, who's under more pressure if they lose this game this weekend?
I would agree with you and say Lamar for sure. I in my opinion, he's still credited as the higher quality quarterback, especially with his run game. If he finds a way to open up his passing abilities further down the road, I mean, we've seen over his NFL career, he has found a little life with his passing game, but it still needs to come away a little.
Right. And if Lamar Jackson and the Ravens lose this game, I know this is, looking forward to the future, but what do you do? I mean, everybody keeps saying get him weapons. He's, he can't throw the ball. What do you do with this team if they can't win, if they can't get farther than this spot? Even I know it's only been 3 years, but I mean, I know you're not looking to replace, but you might have to be looking to re-energize this. Derrick Henry, but Josh Allen, we know, is going to be in the AFC East. We don't know when the Patriots will get back. We're sure the Jets won't be back for a few years, and Miami's kind of knocking on the door. So we're not really as worried about Josh Allen as we are Lamar Jackson here, third year. I would say if he can't win this game, it's starting to, you get those rumbles of can't get over the hump. Throwing for 137 yards. That just is not appealing to a team that wants to win a Super Bowl.
Unless if you're able to find like a decent running back that has a all right arm where he can run like some crazy trick plays here and there.
And maybe they can get Antoine Randall L for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, keep that opposing defense on their toes and
the 2-quarterback system.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll get Alex.
Well,
Smith.
1.5 technically.
Alex Smith.
Maybe they'll get Alex Smith in the offseason.
Wow.
Spike, who you got in this one? I mean, just off of not the number. I mean, what do you see? How do you see this one going?
I think Tony Johnson actually hit on, breezed past one of the points that I wanted to make, especially about the number on this one, and that is under in the first half, because I think this is where the people find their snow legs. They try to figure out how they're going to play in this kind of inclement weather, and it's going to take them probably a full quarter and a half to actually get adjusted to this. And I think that's where there's a lot of value. William Hill has a number at 24 right now. Actually, as we were talking, I jumped on it. So I think this is a spot where that's one of those pieces where you can really look to get some value here. Because if Lamar Jackson's saying he's never played in the snow before and all of a sudden he's playing a playoff game in the snow, dude can't throw the ball anyway, so they're going to have to run. If he can't run, they're not going to go anywhere. So it's just one of those. I just see kind of a 3 and out kind of game to at least start this thing. But overall, I just think right now, as good as Baltimore is playing, I don't trust them to beat a team that is playing as completely as Buffalo is. Like, Buffalo finds ways to win games. Baltimore is kind of a one-trick pony where they just kind of beat you down and then hope that you can't catch up. I think this is with Buffalo's defense, with the weather, with Josh Allen playing the way he is, with the way that coaching staff is going. This is a game where I think Buffalo kind of can hold serve and take this one away from Baltimore.
Yeah, which is why I think the number is really, really weird. And I had to move that number out of handicapping purpose. I can see Buffalo literally winning this game by 3, or Buffalo kicking a game-winning field goal to win by 1. It's this. I think this is going to be a very close game. So I agree with you on that one. And we'll see how Lamar Jackson and Snow get along.
Just so you know, Aaron, 7.5 is the number. The under varies from about -120 to -145, depending on where you look for Diggs.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about I'm like, I got 2.5. Did it move that fast?
No.
7.5 for the For the
Yes.
Diggs catch prop, I would be under
Yes.
that. Where did you find that at?
Varying places. He's everywhere. The receptions are everywhere too. So MGM is the heaviest. It looks like Circa's minus 120 only for that under. And then I think Westgate was right in the middle somewhere, maybe 125. I can't remember.
Gotcha. All right, let's move to Sunday, and we've got the Cleveland Browns versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs minus 10, biggest line of the week here. Total in this one, 57. Cleveland, we all talked about at the beginning of the podcast here. Cleveland coming off that win against Pittsburgh, 48-37, where they were up 28-0 in the first after the first quarter. Craziness, crazy game. But Kansas City coming off of the bye, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC, and a couple of things that are really big to mention here with that is the fact that the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs is Andy Reid, and Andy Reid off of a bye is how you say money. Guys, 24-5 straight up, 20-9 against the spread when coming off of a bye, either in the regular season or the postseason. So obviously that bodes well for the number 10. The crazy thing this year is really Kansas City has the ability to beat you by 30 through 3 quarters and then literally not cover a 10-point spread like this in the fourth. So it was really a hard one to look at here. The Browns coming off that first postseason victory since 1994. Who was the coach then, Spike? I figured you're going to tell me anyway. So.
Go on.
Who was it? Go on. I don't know that guy.
Yeah, go on. The first Asian American to be the coach of a team.
Go on. Is that Goon, really? Like Goon?
Oh,
go on.
That's actually pretty good. That's clever.
So the first postseason win since Bill Belichick was the head coach. I would basically parrot everything the Browns need to do to beat the Chiefs as they did to beat the Steelers, because it's really their modus of operandus, is play good defense and run the ball well. Obviously, if you don't know by now, you're probably going to hear about it the next day or so. The Kareem Hunt revenge factor here is going to be an interesting one. I wonder how much of a split he's going to get with Nick Chubb and how well he can play against this team, because I'm sure – I don't know. You haven't really talked to him. I'm sure he's not loving the fact that he's making little to no money in Cleveland when he could have been probably getting paid right about now in Kansas City. So I'm sure he'll have a little chip on his shoulder. But those guys have to run the ball well to win, and Baker Mayfield basically has to be one of my favorite game managers, Alex Smith, not lose this game. That all being said, I still don't know if Cleveland can really hang with Kansas City, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of things. This is a very, very tough game to handicap, I think. I think it's the hardest one out of the 4, pretty clearly. So the only thing I'll say, because I'm going to move past it relatively quickly because I don't have any action on this one. I do think this has been manually raised, the spread. So I do think the true line in this game is something in the 8, 8.5, maybe 9 range. I do think, and I've heard this now from 2 different odds makers. One, the head of at MGM, and the other was Nick Bogdanovich, the head at William Hill. I mean, these are 2 heavy hitters.
I would say, sorry to interrupt you, but I was actually shocked that this game was double digits after the second game. I would think it would be artificially lowered based on what Cleveland did again. No one saw that coming. I mean, if you expected the Cleveland victory, sure, but not the way they did it.
Yeah, no, it was a big shocker. But no, they've artificially moved this line up because they are trying to protect themselves from the teaser crescendo that was expected in this game. So anything 10 or above, I mean, you can't really get below a field goal unless you do one of, Aaron's crazy teasers, which, is certainly doable. But anything reasonable from the 6 to 7 range, you can't get below the field goal, and that is going to cut back on a ton of teasers, which have been extremely profitable in the playoffs over the last 5 to 6 years, I believe. In fact, books have talked about actually raising, making the odds worse in the playoffs for teasers. It's been talked about before, so which would be a really big blow. But yeah, so we know this line has been pretty much raised, to kind of cover that side of it. They also have a big liability on Kansas City future bets too. So I think the number is not for this game and going forward is going to be artificially raised. They just don't want to be taking any more Kansas City action. And just hope for the best, and maybe they can somehow lose a game, over these next three. But even with that said, even if it should be 8.5, I'm not going to run to the window here, and take the 10 here with Cleveland. Yeah, it's a good spot. The matchup makes a lot of sense. What Cleveland does really well on offense, clearly running between the tackles. Great guard play. We've talked about the two running back tandem, and that's what Kansas City is worst at. Defensively, they're not great tackling for a linebacking core. They get great pass rush, but again, right through the middle of the line, they're really not ideal. You could run on Kansas City here, so it makes some sense in that regard. But I'm not stepping in front of Pat Mahomes in a spot where they have not been great of late, where they've covered one spread in the last 10 games. They're 1-9 in their last 10. But I'm not necessarily sure that they were really going all out in those games. We saw some lackadaisical play in the second halves. We saw them give away, a few games here and there almost. I just don't think that they were really on point per se. And when this team is on point and when they are playing to the 100% level, they should win this game by double digits. So I'm not going to step in front of it here. The over made some sense, but again, you start getting into this 56, 57 range now. 57.5? You have to have a lot of things go right. Especially you have to have points from Cleveland more so than anything else. And if they're going to run the ball 30 to 35 times, which I think is very viable, it's just hard to score a lot of points, doing that. So I'm staying away from this one, but I think it's really a fascinating handicap all the way around.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that's some great insight right there, because you're right. I like I said, Token, I looked at this line and I couldn't believe, based on last week's performance, that Cleveland wasn't somewhere in the single digits. I mean, and to couple it a number I didn't even know, you're right. They're 7-9 against the spread this year. Kansas City, only 3-5 at home. Like I said, they get up 4 touchdowns on teams, the most notably Miami and Tampa Bay, and then they just stop. They just almost play a prevent offense kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think Tony absolutely nailed the head on that one, calling the spread should have been probably closer to 8.5, in my opinion. I was clearly thinking 8 in the hook for sure, especially how Cleveland performed last week. But this is Kansas City. They have the best quarterback in the league and arguably probably one of the better coaches in the league too.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing with Kansas City is they can literally beat you by 1 and still make it look like a 17-point victory. It just really, it's really one of those things. Kansas City is really becoming that I either bet on them or I lay off, because, despite the fact they're 7-9 against the spread this year, any given Sunday or any given game, they got no – I don't see any team that they can't actually beat by 4 touchdowns in this league. Yeah,
and if you look back at playoffs last year, I mean, they were down, 20 –
They had to come back every game. Every game in the playoffs, they had to come back.
They're down 24 in the was it the Houston
Texans game.
And they covered the first half.
They were down in the Titans game. They were down in the Super Bowl. I mean, they were down in all 3 games, and they just literally turned it on, and they were up before you blink. I mean, they were down, 24-0 after 1 quarter in the Texans game, and then they were winning at halftime. It's crazy.
Yep, and then they covered the game spread too.
Yeah. Just don't know what to make of these numbers.
A lot of funny shit can happen in this one for sure.
And that's the crazy thing with sports. I mean, I think Spike, the play, if you're going to play that, is Kansas City in a rout or nothing. I mean, like I said, Baker Mayfield, at some point, they're not too great against the spread either. 7-10 this year, 4-5 on the road. So I would lay my money with the better quarterback and the better team, but I'm not taking the spread on either side.
No, and neither am I. And this is a game where I think the only sensible action here is if there's a line that you really love, then you add Kansas City as a money line team and just kind of parlay the two, because you'll get a little bit more money. Kansas City should be able to win this game, but we just like everybody's been saying, we just don't know by how much. It is interesting though that in these matchups of Baker Mayfield versus Patrick Mahomes, Mayfield was the victor in college more often, or how many times did they meet? I forget, but I know that Mayfield did get the better of Mahomes in those matchups.
I got 3 letters for that. BFD.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just saying that it's an interesting kind of rehash of these Big 12 matchups of old. And I for one am curious to see how they go in the pros now. it has to be on the quarterback's mind. It just has to be. And you wonder if there's any part of that mentally that would get to either of these guys if they start getting down by a little bit, like, oh, not again, here we go, blah, blah, blah. You don't really know what goes through a quarterback's head, especially when they've met in the past in other circumstances. So I don't know. This will be a fun one to watch, but like the rest of you, I'm laying off it except for the one wacky parlay where I have Kansas City money line, which is like minus, I don't know, 400, 500, 900. I don't even remember. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
4, 5, 9.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous. I just bet it minus the whatever and just throw it on there with a game that you actually like.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Baker Mayfield and Pat Mahomes were not at Texas Tech at the same time. Yes or no?
They were briefly, and then he transferred to Oklahoma. I think he transferred mostly because of Mahomes, because Mahomes was the clear incumbent.
Gotcha.
I think.
Well, I can tell you this. I can say for a fact that even though I'm not taking the regular spread that's on the board right now, Kansas City and Cleveland will make an appearance in our picks later for me. Just a little teaser there.
No doubt, yeah.
Shocker.
All right, and the last game, probably in my opinion, the most interesting game, just maybe in my world for investment, is Tampa Bay and New Orleans. New Orleans at home is a 3-point favorite. Total in this one is 52. Tampa Bay beat Washington unexcitedly 31-23 last week. It was the only game I actually lost straight up. I had the under 44 in that one. It did obviously not come to fruition. New Orleans also unexcitedly beat Chicago 21-9. Tony, just quickly here, I want to touch back into more things, but why did they not kick the extra point? Given the fact that a lot of places had 10.5, 11, 12s it got up to. Why was that extra point not messed with at the end of the game there?
Yeah, it was one of the rules that they altered. I think it might have been 3 or 4 years ago. Could have been a little bit longer. I can't remember where. If the game is not in doubt in regards to the couple of points can't alter, who wins or loses the game or potentially, ties, then they actually don't kick it if time has expired in the game anymore. So yeah, it was a recent change. 3 or 4 years ago, something like that.
I was like, well, that threw a lot of people off, especially where I was, who were holding some, various tickets. Sure. But nevertheless, it was a win for New Orleans, albeit unexcited. But here's the big thing that I read. I didn't know this. You hear cliches, and usually cliches are cliches for a reason because most of the time they're true or what have you. But it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. And I hear that all the time. I've heard it all week. That's the old, square better. Oh, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times. I love Tampa Bay +3. But I read a few articles and did some quote-unquote digging, and since 1970, so we're talking about 50 years here, any team who faces a divisional rival in the playoffs after beating them twice is 14-7 straight up. So the hard to beat a team 3 times is only been right 7 times out of a total of 21 in the history. So I don't necessarily hang on to that cliche, I guess you could say, because it's just not as common as people, I guess, think it is. That being said, both these teams are playing just uninspiring football in terms of an excitement phase, but I don't know. I had to take myself kind of out of this one from the spread. I really want Tampa Bay to win, obviously, for personal reasons. New Orleans is another team, Drew Brees, it goes with him. They can't rely on a ton of Taysom Hill gadget plays. I think he's hurt this week, so that's obviously not going to be really in the playbook. But I will say this. I found that the last team to do this, beat a team 3 times in their division and into the playoffs, Tony, the New Orleans Saints in 2018.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. Okay.
They beat the Panthers 3 times.
There you go. Yeah. No, I mean, it's, your description's pretty good here. I think we sort of expected a little bit more fireworks maybe with these 2 teams coming into this game. But as you said, New Orleans has really played very uninspired football over the last, many weeks now. And, clearly we know that Drew Brees is, on his last season, or at least, maybe he'll play another one, but certainly this is the end of it here, and it's been a bit ugly. As we said, it was a little bit ugly towards the end of last year, and now it's come right through into this season as well. It's an interesting game because I think both teams are going to really struggle running the ball. So not only I know people like to see, one quarterback versus another, even though they don't really, face each other in the game. But I do think that the winning team will have had to make a lot of plays from the quarterback. I just can't see either one of these guys being able to move. First of all, nobody runs on Tampa. It just hasn't happened the entire season. Even when Tampa had their little bit of a lull, nobody runs on this front. It just doesn't happen. And New Orleans has once they've gotten healthy now over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they have been a run-stopping machine. And that's where I'm looking at in this game more so than anything else. I've already got quite a large one on the Alvin Kamara under rushing yards. It's an ugly thing to see, because he's a great player, obviously, and it's only 61 yards, which is what I got. But I don't think they're going to even try to run the ball very much because, again, nobody really runs on Tampa. So how many plays can Drew Brees really make, in this time? I'm not sure. I don't know, but I'm not quite also convinced that he's going to have to make a ton either here. I'm not impressed with what we've seen from Tampa Bay. You said it, I think, really well, Aaron, that while they've had some really, really big blowout games, they've been against really, really bad defenses. And even Washington, they had a great pass rush, but certainly on the back end, it just was not a very good defense. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of a grindy kind of game. A lot of punting, which we're not used to seeing from these two teams. And I do have a bet on this game, so I'll get to that a little bit later on. But I'm not sure this is going to be that high-flying score fest that we sort of were maybe hoping for, from earlier in the season when we thought these two teams might meet again.
Well, you look at both meetings here, Token. The first meeting was in Week 1, 34-23 Saints, and it really didn't even seem that close. Second one, I believe, was on Sunday Night or Monday Night Football, and they just destroyed Brady and the Bucs, 38-3 on November 8th. I think it was Week 10 or something. And I was really shocked to see that the line – I expected the line to be higher. I expected the line to be in the 4.5 to 5 range because of previous encounters, not necessarily the way they're playing right now.
It did open there, Aaron. It did open right there. It came down immediately. Yes, correct.
Okay, well, that's honestly, I don't see it anywhere at 4.5, 5. I see it opened at 3.5, so I'll believe you, but I just didn't see it anywhere. I kind of love the Saints. Again, personal reasons, I'm rooting for Tampa, but I kind of love the Saints at -3 here.
Yeah, matchup of probably two great dynasty quarterbacks. Either of these could be the last of their careers. More unlikely with Brady in this situation. But
Brady's last game if they don't win.
Could be, yeah. I don't know. I still think Brady's more likely to come back next year than Breeze, win or not. And I know Breeze is looking really shaky, and his health, if he values his health more, he's unlikely to come back after the season, win or lose.
I give Tom Brady a 0% chance. He signed a 2-year deal. I'm thinking he honors that. I give Brady a 0%, minus career-ending injuries, obviously. But I would say he's a 0.0% chance of coming back in this one. But, again, I'll go back to this line spike. Again, -3, you're basically telling me that this game, if this was a Super Bowl, it'd be a pick'em. I don't know if I buy that, even despite the fact that I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think this is the line doesn't make any sense to me either. And I know that, there is that stigma of the teams, don't beat the same team 3 times in the season, even though you have the numbers to disprove that. But, my thought is, Brady hasn't shown that he can beat this New Orleans Saints team. He just nothing
with him.
Yeah, these have not been good games for Brady. And in fact, I just saw that Brady has 12 interceptions on the season. 5 of those have been against New Orleans.
Wow.
So, this is not a good matchup for Brady. I don't know if it's he was relying too heavily on like a Belichickian game plan, and that's why he was able to beat teams like this in the past. Like Brady's record against number one defenses is fucking absurd in his career. But this New Orleans team with Brady or against Brady with Brady's new coaching staff, just they haven't figured him out, and I don't know what he does to get around that. And I think Tony Johnson is absolutely right. I don't think this becomes the high flying game that a lot of people expect it to be. I think this is a slugfest. I think this is a trenches game. I think this is getting in the face of the quarterback, making them throw not necessarily interceptions, but at least incompletes, throw those balls before they're not ready. And I think that we get kind of for a casual fan, what they would describe as a boring game. I think it's just a bad football, bad offensive footballs on both sides for at least a little while in this one.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to analyze it. I will say this: I think both teams end up in the 20s. Now, that doesn't necessarily make it an exciting football game, but I think both teams at the end will be in the 20s. I think we'll look closer to the Week 1 final than we will have than we had that other game against Sunday night. That was 38-3. I don't think we'll have a blowout here in that magnitude. I think New Orleans might still win this game by double digits, but not by 35 points. So, all right. Well, that's going to wrap up all 4 of the divisional round picks here in the NFL. So we previewed each of the 4 games. Now we're going to give you our picks. What we decided, we had a minimum of 2 picks from each person here on the panel. So Token, as the winner of the contest, you get to go first again. Now, hopefully you don't have 0-4 again.
I've got 4 picks again this week, so more than likely I will probably go 0-4, even though I feel more confident in these.
So maybe we should just get that fade the fuck out of Token hashtag trending, right?
Yeah, I'm saving the winning picks for next season for a contest.
There you go.
Yep.
You're allowed to give them out every week,
I know. I'm just grab your pens and pencils, everybody. It's time to fade Token. So,
Wait.
all right. First pick, we got Green Bay laying the 6.5.
Oh shit.
Yep. Well, there goes a winner. We got over 49.5 in the Ravens and Bills game.
Shit.
We got Cleveland plus the 10.
I'm not on that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you said you weren't on a side on that one. And then I got over 52 on the Bucs and Saints game.
I actually was on that, and I scratched it out before you gave your picks. You would have literally had 3 out of 4 picks.
Wow, that's great. That is fantastic.
All right, well, I'll get mine out of the way. I can always swing back to me on my teaser pick. So, yes, I have Green Bay minus 6.5 as well. Baltimore, Buffalo, I have over 49.5. And I'm actually taking New Orleans minus 3 as somewhat of a happiness hedge, as Spike likes to call them.
Huh. All right. Before I give my picks, I have to ask Tony Johnson here. Are you also on Green Bay minus 6.5?
I am not, so we cannot make it a consensus. No,
we cannot make it a consensus because I am on Green Bay minus 6.5. That is the first of my picks for this week. I also like the under in the Tampa Bay New Orleans game, currently sitting at 52 at the Westgate Sportsbook. And like I mentioned previously, I like that. I very much like that under in the first half of Buffalo Baltimore. I think that one is the one where you empty the mortgage account on that bet.
Ooh, so write that down.
Mortgage account. Under first half.
Yep, under first half. Like I said, it was at 24 when we started recording this thing. I don't know what it looks like now. That's about it. I really none of these lines really excited me otherwise. And like I said, if you have something that you really like that, I really like that Tampa Bay New Orleans under. So I'll probably parlay that with the Kansas City money line just to get a little extra money out of that pick.
And then you get the Tampa Bay New Orleans cover, but Cleveland wins.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Tony, what do you got this week? Props and bets.
Oh, you want props too? Well, there's a lot of those. All right, well, we'll start with the bets quickly here. So the first one, I am avoiding the Green Bay game, so that's nice. But I did wait it out very nicely. Waited for 3 in the Baltimore game, and I do have Baltimore plus 3 for a brief moment at South Point today. They were +3, and it's always -110 at South Point. They don't move off those money lines. So that's kind of nice. So Baltimore +3, and then the other bet was I was kind of alluding to a little bit is I really like New Orleans in this game too. Again, I waited all the way. I was really hoping to get down to a 3, and it did. So we got a 3 -110 there. I know it's going to probably creep back up. In fact, I'm very confident that game will close 3.5. I do think it will close 3.5. I think we need a lot of New Orleans money late. So those are the two there. I'll run down the player props pretty quickly. I'll try to go within each game here. And again, these numbers are going to vary, obviously. I tried to snipe numbers, where we can. But so in the first game, we got Aaron Jones under 71 rushing yards, Devontae Adams under 80 receiving yards. And in game 2 here, Lamar Jackson over 75 rushing yards. My favorite one of the week is this one is Lamar Jackson under 203 passing yards. I'm not even sure he gets to 150.
Yeah, that's a high number. Wow.
Yeah, that opened pretty high at MGM. I think they're back down under 200 now, but that's
I like the over in that game. I still think they can get the over even without him getting.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I agree. J.K. Dobbins over 57 rushing yards. Stephon Diggs under 95 receiving yards. And then moving on into the Cleveland game, we have Jarvis Landry under 63 receiving yards. Again, I just don't think he's going to even sniff that number. It's going to be tough going, I think, with Cleveland through the air. But certainly I know they'll be able to get what they can on the ground. And then let's see, we got Baker Mayfield under 262 passing yards. And in the last game, Alvin Kamara under 61 rushing yards and Mike Evans under 67 receiving yards. Mike Evans not 100% right now. He is practicing, but the Tampa Bay beat writer, along with another guy I follow, has talked about how since that injury that Evans had a couple of weeks ago, he's not looked good, and even in practice, he's been hobbling around a bit. They kept him limited now the last 2 days. He's not 100%. I think. I mean, it's going to be tough anyway for Tampa, but there's plenty of guys they can go to if need be. And, if there's no time for Tom Brady here, like we're kind of expecting it to be, a bit of a grind fest as Spike talked about, where are these routes going to go? They're going to have to be underneath type of stuff. And it's hard to run a lot of underneath routes and, have 68 or more yards. We've seen that with Smith-Schuster and all the, Pittsburgh receivers this year. They're just not getting a lot of long receptions. And, except for Claypool, the only exception to that one. But it's hard to do. It's hard to cover numbers like that. So that's where I'm at there.
Fair enough. And I gave you my picks already, so I'll swing back around to that 3-team 10-point teaser, which hit last week. I'll recap last week's Indianapolis
that's right.
plus 16.5. Tampa Bay and Washington under 54.5. Thank God that got there.
Ooh, that was close.
And I had New Orleans down to a pick 'em. So we are 1-0 on the 3-team 10-point teasers this week. So we're going to do another one of those. I think I kind of like these a little bit better, less juice. They're only minus 120 at William Hill. So let's start. I told you Kansas City would make my picks. They are a pick exactly at minus 10 down to a pick 'em. I am hoping that Spike and I can get a middle here. I'm going to take the over 42 in New Orleans and Tampa Bay. I think we're looking at something along the lines of 24-20, give or take. And since I already like the over at 49.5 in Baltimore Buffalo, I'm going to take the over at 39.5 as well in that game. So that's the 3-team 10-point teaser, minus 120 at William Hill. Kansas City pick'em. Saints Bucks over 42. Ravens Bills over 39.5. All right, well, that's the divisional round preview show here for the Vegas Squares podcast. We appreciate you listening. You can catch us on all of our outlets. We are on 12-Ounce Sports Network, lvsquares.com, YouTube. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on ZingoTV. If you can't find us, you're not looking hard enough, trust me. But we also want to thank our sponsors, obviously, first and foremost, 12-Ounce Sports, who host us and just do everything over there. And it's all been great. 12OunceSportsNetwork.com. Please visit them. Our title sponsors, our sponsored affiliates, Vice Golf and Fanatics.com. Please visit us at LV Squares. Click the sponsors page and shop using those links. The HEATR bet tracking app, which is a new app that I've been playing around with. It's pretty fun. A free app on your iPhone. Keep track of your bankroll, live in play, and download that today on your iPhone. Android coming soon. InTheHoleGolf.com, ProAm Customizations. We appreciate them. Please support them so they can continue to support us. And that's going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate you guys listening again. Good luck on your bets. Good luck on your picks. Enjoy the games. For Spike, for Token Tony, for Tony Johnson, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. We will catch you on the next one. Good luck.